Tonight, we are grateful to welcome Dorlop Choenyi Sangmo and her interpreter, Isis Minghao. Dorlop Choenyi Sangmo is a Tibetan Buddhist nun and esteemed Vajra Master in the Namchak lineage. With decades of rigorous training, including 2 intensive 3-year retreats, she embodies deep spiritual commitment and expertise in Buddhist philosophy, ritual, and meditation. Born in a farming village in Shikatse, central Tibet, Dorlop La secretly studied the Dharma texts while working in the fields. At 23, facing religious persecution, she endured a harrowing 10-day journey on foot through the Himalayas from Tibet to Nepal. Once there, she joined Tulku Sangha Rinpoche's turquoise leaf nunnery, where her deep study and practice flourished. Dorlop completed her first 3-year retreat at 30, a transformative period of meditation and practice. She later served as the Vajra Master for her second 3-year retreat, an honor reflecting her mastery of the teachings and her ability to guide others through the profound depths of retreat practice. Following her retreat training, she studied teaching and performing ceremonial duties at Turquoise Leaf Monastery and Namdroling Monastery for 7 years. In 2023, she relocated to Montana to support establishing the Namchak 3-year retreat. Currently, Dorlop La is focused on deepening her personal practice and learning English while residing at the Namchak Retreat Ranch. We are truly blessed with her presence at the ranch and her guidance in our sangha. Isis Minghao is our translator tonight. She had the good fortune to be born into a Dharma family. Her father, mother, and herself are students of Venerable Gyatso Rinpoche, their root guru. In 2015, she graduated with the highest honors and special recognition from San Francisco State University, earning 2 bachelor's degrees in cultural anthropology and art with a minor in religious studies. Around this time, her teachers, Venerable Lingchul Rinpoche, Sangye Khandro, and Lama Chunam, encouraged her to focus her studies on the Tibetan language and the Buddha Dharma so that she could serve the community as a translator. Since then, she has spent time living and studying in India and Nepal. She attended traditional Shedra courses in Tibetan and completed the translator training program at Rangjung Yeshe Institute in Kathmandu, Nepal. She currently serves her community as a translator and also works as an educator in the public school system. And sometimes, if we're lucky, she will come to us in Montana for the AWAM Institute's Shedra program at the Garden of 1,000 Buddhas. And we here at Namchak are so grateful to Isis for her generosity of skill and time. Thank you so much. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Dorlop La.
Tini that living an talk mal the dilla ni jadi nang la nyam hyu nang ge ji tini kong nang ba sang ma le tini kong mi sala samri ta hi dile se yes.
First, I'd like to say hello to everybody here, everybody gathered online. I'd like to say Tashi Dele, good evening, hello.
Tini da tiringi da tini ma ji da ti da jeja da ma che he jeja de tini di 단조 nyeka sigiore 아니 밀리 림보체 sigiore 또 디다 아니 츠미닥 비콜리 디니디 근데 다히에 reduce
So today, the topics we will be speaking on are the freedoms and advantages, sometimes called the freedoms and riches of a precious human birth. And also we will be speaking about impermanence.
Dini di tanjo nyega tsemida ba le junde dini kori nyimi se di hila dini di loto namba hi se ani ming tende yang taga yores.
And so actually, if we take these four subjects, the difficulties of obtaining the freedoms and advantages of a precious human birth, impermanence, karma, cause and result, and also the shortcomings or faults of samsara, if we take these four topics together, they're often found together, and these are called the four thoughts that turn the mind from samsara.
Di nani da di kong anzo di loto namba hi nani dini tangbo nimo de da tanjo nyega da an tsemida pikoli da di kang ma di so da di cheni hue yin se he ya pena tanjo nyega jikbo lang ko shebo she yora he na.
And so within these four thoughts, we're going to speak about the first two, the freedoms and advantages of a precious human birth and impermanence. And so we're going to speak about these in a brief way. We will begin by speaking about the freedoms and advantages of a precious human birth.
Jida tenda da di taje nala hu dege kong namba da ji gare da ji nyamle tu do che ya pe tobo tende ye jure la ani gare da ji le tangbo wasi ko ya da che li tangbo tende ji chige ya ye jure tini jidani da ji 디기나 다 단조니가 다 쯤이다 비즈도 다 지나도 지단이 제나 달래 당보와 도 지조이 디니디 곰자이나다 안 지조리지 오데 시에지레스.
And so here among everybody who is gathered here online, it's possible that there are many people who are very experienced practitioners with many years of experience already. It's possible that there are people who are beginners who are starting. And so generally when we learn about the freedoms and advantages of a precious human birth, this is something that's more of a beginning topic, something that we meditate upon as beginners.
근데 데데다이나 단조 니가 시티점바다 타와 예당 조라주 단조 좁게 된비다 아니 지 리덴지라 밀리림보체세 당도 해게요레 지다 등상원이 제나 그 단조 좁게세 되지 장가장 해와 당 줌제 해와 잠지 레라보레 탱기도서 가르스나 등상 타자디도 나라 주의바 직내 온데 잠반 단조 좁게디도 상마고 판다소소요라
판톡조
타와 제단 조르와 주디도 장가 장에당 디조 등상원이 베나가도 중 오데 마제나야 아니 딩아도 등상 타자디도 나라 직내 온데 잠바고 상마다소소요라
맞아.
레라오레 탱기도서
And so here, when we speak about the freedoms and advantages of a precious human birth, this includes the 8 states of freedom and the 10 advantages or the 10 riches. And altogether, these are called the 18 freedoms and advantages of a precious human birth, a precious human body. And so there are different ways to explain these 18. These 18 can be enumerated and explained in detail. We can explain the causes for obtaining these 18. And generally, this is something that is appropriate for us to speak about online because this is a subject that is appropriate for all to listen to and to study.
Di kareresina ta ngarang zo chi ta tanjo nyega se te ta chi kom ni di ngarang zo chi gyuli pa ke go gire se pena chi ta ngang zo sem da ta di de go re pena o ma ta chu de wa na hi chen tanjo nyega de gom ni te ngarang zo sem li kom hi cha go re ta di ne ke la kha o re man do di thanga ja ya le da chi ka nga kha ma re se di thanga ja le la o re.
And so generally, when we speak about these 18 freedoms and advantages, this is something that we really have to meditate upon. We really have to mingle the meaning of this with our mind streams. This is something that we have to mix within our minds, like milk mixing with water. And so we have to do this so that we can develop a habit. And just enumerating, just counting, this is something that's easy, but to truly mingle the meaning of these teachings in our mind streams is not.
그 다와제당 조라주도 장가자 소시 하코야데 자니 펜도요 마레랍나 다 펜도 티즈다 얘기래데이나 다 곰니 간장도 곰 잡니 곰히 자니 율리 맞었나 다 단조 접자고 로리로나야데 다 근데 로저레스
So when we speak about these 18 freedoms and advantages, just knowing them, just like counting them or being able to enumerate, like this isn't really beneficial. Well, we can say there is some benefit. There is a little benefit to this. We can't say that there's no benefit. But the true benefit comes in meditating upon this, mingling this, applying it to our minds. If we can really do that, then this is beneficial.
Dindri da gom jab thangbo gom dindri gom ni ding angzo gom hi cha na ding arangzo semli yuwa te yongi ra da di ngone ding arangzo jiko peng to ki re la da inji ngone arangzo dindri di gom ba za ma yin ba hiula dindri semli gom hi cha ya de da ngone goya ding arangzo de go yoris.
So we have to meditate upon this. We have to meditate upon this, and not only that, but develop a habit to always think about this, to experience our lives through these topics. And so if we can do this, then that is what will truly benefit our minds, because this is what will change our minds. And so if we really do this, then that will bring us lasting benefit. And so we need to meditate, and we need to apply this to our minds and develop these habits.
이나네 아니 당봉 저지 뭐 달와 리쌈니 시기 갑소티니 디 다와 제 시기레다 다와 제데 가레레스나 아니 미곤비네 제도 마제와나 아니 가도 달와세 시기야레 디 달와데 다지 체 루베 고가 베게 지라 달와 시기르만도 시안지다 미 디아들 헬레 대샤교 텐데 지라 안디 달와데 고야 마레스.
And so within these 18 freedoms and advantages, the first of these are the 8 freedoms. What do the 8 freedoms mean? The 8 freedoms means not being born within the 8 unfree states, or the 8 freedoms are the 8 states of freedom that allow us to practice the dharma. And this is what is meant by freedom. When we say freedom, we don't just mean like an ordinary person or a normal person being able to relax and enjoy. That's not what is meant by freedom in this case.
디 미곤비네 예데 다치 가리헤레스나디니 거냐와 제 아니 이다 안 튠로 디숨라 땅에 송숨스기어레 안 디강레 사체링보데 자게어레 디니디 국바다 디니디 라로다 디니디 상제기 동바세 다디 제딜라다 미곤비네 제시 헤게어레스.
So what are these 8 states of being unfree? And so this would include being born in the hell realm, being born in the hungry ghost realm, being born in the animal realm. So there are the 3 lower states, being born in any one of these. And then also being born as a long life god or formless god, being born as somebody without all of their faculties, being born as a barbarous person, and also being born during a time in which a Buddha has not appeared. And so all of these together would be the 8 unfree states.
Di kanse jetu dini di da di je thangka thang elang kele yo mare te dini di da je nang la tenda ngarang zo ani di da je yo mares.
Within these 8 unfree states, if one is not born within these 8 states of not being free, then that would qualify as having the 8 states of freedom, or having the 8 freedoms.
Di da ji di tujin da ngang zo ji da tanzania ka da di mikombi ne je tu ma je da tawa je de ngang zo gom ja go ra da gom ja on di ka su ti ni da country ro ji res na pe na da so so ma le le che ni de che ni Tini samlo tang ni pena nyawa roji nang la da tenda nga ke na tini nga ada didi nga la di chue dube koka yesa rewe samni nga zo samlo tang go jires.
And so now specifically speaking about the 8 states of freedom, how do we meditate upon this? We should sit in a very relaxed way and we should contemplate. of each of these 8 unfree states, we should think, oh, if I was born in the hell realm, then what would that be like? Would I have the opportunity to practice the Dharma?
Tende chenda gom jaung kapsu tini tachi ta nyawa nangla tachi chadang tizo kareo mende chen samlo taung kapsu tini ti nyawa se di nangla kye na ani nga gom jaya tsa ni kukap yesa mare samni samlo chik korki re ani ni o ta tenda nga rangi li den de ta tila kye minduwa nyawa li ti te song zang ta nga rang li ko che dum nang dubi kukap duk sambi ani samlo chik koyong kires.
So we should really think and we should focus on what it would be like to be born in hell, for example, in the hot hells. And then we should really think, if I was there, if I was suffering in the hell realms, then I really would never actually have the opportunity to practice the Dharma. I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't have that capacity. Now I'm born in a human body. We should think that, oh, I do have the opportunity to practice the Dharma. I have this opportunity. And so we should think like this.
Nga zo da pen na chi tukang de zo nang da den de di zamba di ni di pen na nyawa do chi ina da den da nyawa de zo re pa hien de nga zo tu zu ro mi do he pen na nyawa li sha ya na cha nya ye ani cha nya ye ani ni che nyen go se chen chop je la so pa de zo xia ya yo re ani nga zo chi dang gom ye gap so ani di zo li ko pen na nyawa na ni ta chanya nang ni yang se chik pola ani ni ma chik ni den de pa gom je ta dila ke na khan de osa re samna an den de chi lo jong gap se den de chigires.
When we're contemplating this in retreat, then we would go through each of the different hell realms and we would really contemplate on each of the hell realms and spend a lot of time doing this. So for example, if we list all of the different hell realms, there are the 8 hot hell realms, there are the 8 cold hell realms, there are the neighboring hell realms, there are the ephemeral hell realms. And so altogether there are 16 hell realms. And then within the 8 hot hell realms, like the first would be like, reviving and so forth. And so we would spend 1 or 2 days on each individual hell realm, like really imagining what it's like to be there.
Ani te hindu ida ina ya ta chikbar ko ida si zamba koran tre kom mi dunga thi chowa te jang jang re man do ani anjo koran le ta ji kom ja ya ji ku ga yo ma des.
And also now moving on to the realm of the hungry ghosts. And if one is born within this realm, then one is tormented and they only experience this feeling of intense hunger and thirst. And because of this, they don't have the opportunity to practice. They're completely overwhelmed at this kind of suffering.
Te na hi thindo di zo li nga zo ta de dang ko zo li chi che go me sam zu hura yo ma ko thenda se sa chi do yo na ya da ro de man do ko zo chi kang da ko zo li che go me ji du he yo ma res.
Also, when we think about the animals are also unable to practice the Dharma. They don't have the capacity or the mind that even can understand this. And so instead, they are overwhelmed with their kinds of suffering. They do not have this ability to practice the Dharma.
Ta hiba si ko ta di sum la nge song sum si ge ra de di ni ta che la che ring bo si ge ta la che ring bo si de khan de ro ji re na ko koran di samde gom ni di ni koran di da ji ikiwange ma de la samde gom an che di la da koran samde de to bon zamba ta koran be nga zo sem na la ta ning je la so pa da nge jung ro dang tong ni de zo kha ya me ba chi gre an cho ji ni khurang thang bo gom di samde gom ye de ta tharwa sangja khom ba re sam ni gom re an jula di tharwa mai ba ha kho de zam ba an ko lo ta ji ge re di ko che de ji mai sa ro sam na te de chen ni ta han ja khurang le che du be kho gap ji yo ma re di ko la che ring bo se si ge re.
And so those 3 were also the 3 lower realms. And now the 4th category is long life gods or formless gods. And so what are these formless gods? And so these are beings who have achieved some kind of realization or stability in samadhi, meditation upon samadhi in their past life. But in their mind streams, they don't have any compassion. They don't have any renunciation for samsara. And so because of this, they do attain this state of samadhi and they think that, oh, this is liberation, like this is it. And then so because they develop this kind of wrong view, they are actually stuck there and they don't have the opportunity to truly practice the Dharma. So they're stuck in these formless states of samadhi.
Nishi dan mi na ya dini ngawa de lalo do sigere lalo se de jidang da mi da re de na ya da ji di jin tsewa che su ma wa lalo sigi do da ji xiang zam da tsewa che su si di zam ba pe na ji sim je da mi di zo so che na ani ge wa re sige je yo ra da yong ra li ten re sige yo re ti a ji dan lalo de la xiang su ma ra wa dan ti de yo res.
And so the fifth category are barbarous humans or barbarous people. And what this means is these kinds of people, they do not understand what virtue is. And so, for example, they might think that killing other sentient beings, killing other humans, this is something that is virtuous. And so they don't understand right from wrong. And there are different ways to explain this category.
Ini di rupa de la da ji lokta sige da lokta ze de da di yin ji bena le junde me ba do di ni da senga ji la sokpa da den de mi ta me ge ta ge ji la da lokta sen de sige res.
And then the sixth category is having wrong view, a person who has wrong view. And what this means is that somebody may not believe in the law of karma, cause and result. They may not believe in past and future lives like this.
Tini dimba de ta sanje tongpa se de sanje tongpa se ti zamba jidang ngarang zo da ji sai kola di do ina cha ni tini ta lo thongyul la so wa ti zo do cha re ani bena nangpa sanje che than ni ten da lo sum dong e me ji la do yo mara ta di nangpa sanje che ma da ri nge li ti sanje tongpa re de de khare sin na ko sai kola cha ni mi do yo re de na che thar yo mara.
And then the seventh is being born during a time in which a Buddha has not appeared. And so this would mean being born during a time or an aeon when the Buddha has not appeared and was not able to teach the Dharma, or even during a time when the Dharma was taught, but it has not been able to spread.
Tini chikeba de ta kukpa re de ta kukpa de chitang kukpa li ti rik mambo duwa kukpa re le chi keche hie me kyo tang ra mata re tanda ni kap su kukpa de tini yi kuk li hie do yi kukpa yi kukpa indi zamba ti ti chik nelu chik tanda chik kang hao koi mara.
And so the eighth category is a person who does not possess all of their faculties. There are many different categories of people without their faculties. Some people are not able to speak, but here mainly what is being emphasized here are people who are mentally impaired. And if people are mentally impaired, then they are not able to understand, right?
Ta di je na la tini ma che wi na tini ti thalwa je se ta thawa je de ngarang zo le ta thawa je dengi o salam na di ors.
And so if one is not born within one of these 8 states of unfreedom, then this would be called possessing the 8 freedoms. And this is what we mean when we talk about the 8 freedoms.
Ta di thanda de bin de thanga ja le kele khang mi do athin de to thanga ja pe le la re de ta so de sa na la pa le che le de tini kha pa do ta kampo ti ro tu sama go jap tini pe gom jap ni pa le chen sam lo ta ni pe na tini tindoli ke na khan de du nyawali ti zo le tini nima pa ta tik de gom jap na de nga zo ngone thang ne ta de ta che pa se jo ra ta che pa se de cha go na ting ngone ti zo le ta gom go re se go thanga ja de ji bu ma re se.
Okay. We just enumerated all of these different 8 states of freedom, right? And that wasn't something that's difficult, right? That was pretty easy just to count them out. But we shouldn't just count them out. We actually need to really practice upon this. And so what this means is we would sit somewhere, we would turn off our phones, we would shut the door, we would really focus. And we would think about, for many days, day after day after day, thinking about what is it like to be born in the animal realm? What would it be like if I was born in the animal realm? What would it be like if I was born in the hell realm? And so we would think and meditate upon this day after day. In Tibetan, there's the word chukpa, or practitioner. And this means somebody who's practicing upon the Dharma. And so in order to qualify as a practitioner, you would actually have to practice, right? You would actually have to meditate. And so it's not, being a practitioner doesn't just mean counting something.
Tende re man do he jing an zo di Daddy ko tanga jayali that kangela yo marse chezo ti kongi ni ma hena na chiranzo di zu ni de chen pa nen ting chigla di ko tizo sama ta so so yo ra tingsa.
And so I said, it's not difficult to count it out, right? And so actually nowadays online, you find all of these lists. You guys can see this all pretty easily, right?
Da kale ka de ngaranzo di daddy ma gom zang de ngazo le ma gom na kom hi cha yo mare. Ngazo kom hi cha dang gom ye se lo de ka se na kom hi si di zamba ngaranzo pe na ngarang ki che tu kala sa ko ya tungye di zo gom go ya mi duwa ngam hyu hyu ko na hyo ge ni ngare che tu le a che nga se lam sang de ngam hyu hyu yong gi duwa de ngazo kom hi cha re. Ta ngazo tenda di tawa mi gom bine je di zo ma je tawa je di zo gom di hyuma di zo ngazo sem li pe ko ran kom hi cha ni pa sem da ni mo pa nyam du dre go ge yor se.
There is even a difference between meditating upon something and developing a habit for something. Like, for example, we all have the habit to get up and to eat something and to drink something, right? This isn't something we need to tell ourselves to do. This is just something that's ingrained within us. It's a habit. And so in the same way, we need to really meditate upon this and develop the habit of thinking about these 8 states of freedom and these 8 unfree states. This is something we should really mingle into our mind streams and really apply to ourselves so that it becomes a very strong habit.
Ni da din de je ni dini go re chene pa le jen de la samlo tan ni de go mon ti zamba dini o ta nga den da di chi mi gon bi ne ge di na la ta ke min du sam ke min du dini ta nga ra chi li den de ta tik de ji kare mixa ro o ta ko ring dang da den ba ji re du sam nga zo den de cha yong ge se.
And so like that, we should really think about each of these 8 unfree states. We should really contemplate. And then we should think, oh, okay, I wasn't born in this unfree state and that unfree state. And we should go through each of the 8. And then doing this, then we'll realize like, wow, this human form, this support of the human body that I have right now is actually quite special. It's something really valuable. And then we'll realize and we'll understand the value and how rare this is.
Tende jene gomo de zambati hini ngarang zo ji ta tele li den tela ani nga zo ji ten yo ba ji chi go sara samna ani semli ji gi re se ti ten yo ba de ta ji ta ten ra ma ta chi yo ra ta di nan tenda kap su po de ta che he di zambati ni ta di gang li ro ra.
And so if we think like that, then finally we will understand that these human forms that we have are really meaningful, and this will arise in our minds. And so there are many different meanings that we could use these bodies to work towards. But right now, what we're talking about is making our lives meaningful by practicing the sacred dharma.
Ta di karesina ta dela dini di ngo tharwa li samba se ta chi di get la ngo thambal thawal samba sigere dini ma dini kepa ki ta chi che jorwa chu si di samba dini yang rangjo nga da henjo nga dinde he ge ta di chu wa changge de la dini ko mili rimpo che se sigera.
We've gone over the 8 states of freedom, and then there are also the 10 advantages, or sometimes called the 10 riches or the 10 favorable conditions. And within these 10, there are the 5 personal advantages and the 5 external advantages. And so these five, they make up 10. And altogether, this 8 and 10 would make up the 18 freedoms and advantages of a precious human body.
Ta di khande chen he re sina tanda thawa ye de ani ngo zam ji he pe na ngzo mendo ro ji lap na ta mendo sina ji dang za dang hian ba mai ba ji khoi re de ya che bar ji che he ko na ya mendo de mar po dang ta ma din re ta ji lo ma la so ba ji de he ja go ra te na hin chen ni ta jor ba chu de ani ta chebar ji dini ko chebar tu pa hegi ar se kejiru.
When we speak about these 8 different freedoms, so these are describing the qualities. So in a way, it's like we're describing the qualities of being born in these 8 states of freedom. And so In the same way, if we were describing a flower, we might say this flower is red, this flower is very beautiful. And so in a way, it's like describing the qualities. And then when we move on to the 10 advantages, in a way, it's also kind of like describing the special features of these 10 different advantages.
Ta di na ne ani tangbo rangjor nga singa zo heire tini di rangjor nga de khandi heire sina tini ko mi ba da chi tini ya yu su ke sina sa ja che shi yu su ke ba da tini wang bo chang wa da tini lei ki ta ma lok ba da ani ta pen na tenda kap bo na nang ba sang ge che li ta ba ye gen ta di nga de la tini di rangjor nga si ke res.
Now, moving on to these 10 advantages. The first are the 5 personal advantages, or the 5 advantages that come from oneself. And so the first of this is to be a human, to have humanity. The second is to be born in a central land. And so what this means is to be born in a land where the dharma is practiced and is available. The third is to have or possess all of one's faculties. And then the fourth is to not have a wrong livelihood. And then the fifth is to have faith in the sacred dharma. And so these are the 5 personal advantages.
Di na ni nga rang zo tenda nga rang zo mi ba de jigre tini yu su ke se de da chi da ni tenda di che zo hian ga zo da che yu se de la che jik dan sa jik se tende ya yo re de sa jik ki wang do chen na da pe na ja ga do je de de zo da nga ma ni san je che thar sa song za de zo ya yo re tini da di 지단이 다 최가와 단나야 디 텔라야 디코 최지기 전나디니 디코 유세 랍초이레스.
And so the first is being born a human, having humanity. The second is to be born in a central land. And what this means is like there are what are referred to as central lands, places where the Dharma has arisen and spread. And so a central land would be something like India or Bodh Gaya, where Buddha Shakyamuni achieved enlightenment, but also any land in which the Buddha Dharma has spread. This is called or considered a central land.
Ini di sumbat la tanang zo wang po chang si ki ha des ani ngarang zo le chi tanda ta chi ko chi chi li dini di wang po ye la ti zo yang ko chang go yo des.
The third is to have all of one's faculties. And what this means is having all like your faculties, your sight, your hearing, and so forth, to possess all of your limbs. If one has all of this, then this is what is meant by having or possessing all of one's faculties.
Ta hiwa de le ta lo pa si ge ta le ta lo si ti zamba chi ta di le ta lo ya de la ya di de ma da hyung ga re nang la khan re ro he yor sin na di ni di pe na sa ja ga re ta chi pa ma di zo ta pe na sem je se gen ro ji na ani di pu ki di zo ya di ni ko de sem je se gwe de lu so ji ora tende la he yore te chita ni tenda nende ro ya on zamba dini gosum chengar ki chawa chige sri do gosum chengar site zamba gosum penali nga isum de ani che dang galwa chige ji la dini ko leta lok pase.
The fourth is to not have wrong livelihood. This is something that there are many different explanations in different texts about what this means. And in some places, like, for example, there are butchers and they kill sentient beings. And according to the traditions of this land, like if the parents do this kind of work, then the children also have to do the same work. They also have to be butchers. And so in general, we can say that to have wrong livelihood would mean that if somehow the activity performed through our body, our speech, and our mind is somehow working against purposes of the Dharma.
Te siya de da che la tepa yo ge la se de yang ko che de la tepa me na de yang jo ko ji ta de ko che de go li hu gi ma ra te si de zamba de tepa de che wi kap su ta de la de ni de rang chor nga si ge ores.
And then the fifth is to have faith for the doctrine of the Buddha Dharma. And the reason for this is if we don't have faith for the Buddha Dharma, then we won't be able to practice the Buddha Dharma, right? we won't be able to apply our minds towards the Buddha Dharma. We won't be able to sort of fit these kinds of views within our minds if we don't have faith, right?
Iwa de la dini di da chi da sumpas ko de la dini di hianjor ngas. Ani hianjor nga de he de hianjor nga de dini sangye chimba dang. Ani che sumba dang. Dini tempa newa dang. Ani tempa de la jesu jukpa da. Ani so so giwi hiening gi jesu sumba. Da di nga la dini di hianjor nga se sigyoris.
And then now we're moving on to the second of these two groupings, which is the 5 external advantages. These include a Buddha has come, a Buddha has taught the Dharma, the teachings still reside, there are followers of these teachings, and to have these followers of the teachings show one loving kindness by explaining these teachings.
The sangye chen dang si de zamba tenda nga rang zo kap su dini di sangye hiak de duwa chen ani di tenda tenpa de zo yo re de dinge ma da tenji go li sangye tongpa hiak pa na yin chen ni ani duwa mi de cha na ya ani sangye ma jen chen ni ani tende kap su chung re ani tendi kap su da sangye nga rang zo kap su da sangye chen bi dini di ti je de la ji ke yo res.
The first advantage that a Buddha has come. So that means being born during a time when a Buddha has come, he or she has taught the doctrine, and then the doctrine is still residing. And so us sentient beings are able to follow and apply this doctrine. We're able to practice the Dharma. For us, we are born during a time in which a Buddha has come.
Ani niwa de la che sung ba sigere ta sanje che na ya che ma sung na tini pendo yo mare de sanje che sung ni nga to tini ti chen ko rin ba sung tini di ji warane sili ti ka thang bo den ba hi chen ko tini cha ke phung bi ri tini ka me phar ba cheni me bi chen ko Tini yu yang ba jing yana mangi ne na so te ka thama dini ti likpan namba chu pi chen gor se ta tinde chen ani sangye chen bi ma je ani chen gor ba sum ko res.
And so the second is that a Buddha has taught the Dharma. For a Buddha just to only have come, to arrive, but not teach the Dharma, this is something that is not of no benefit to us, right? And so here, we are born during a time when Buddha Shakyamuni has come. He has taught the 3 great turnings of the wheel. First in Varanasi, he taught the 4 noble truths. And then in Vulture Peak, he taught, and this is the turning of the wheel without characteristics. And then he taught, and then there is the 3rd great turning of the wheel. And so we were born during a time in which a Buddha has come and he has taught the doctrine.
Sumba de da ji tempa ne ba si ra ani sangye tempa de ani tenda nga to tempa de ne si de zamba nga rang zo sangye tempa de la thewa da samba gomba chie ye de ani dila tini ko sangye tempa ne si gres.
And then the third is that this doctrine is still remaining, it's still residing. Because this doctrine is still available to us, it's still residing, we have the ability to hear, to listen, to contemplate, to meditate upon these teachings.
Tini hiwa de dije juk sinata ngaranzo tini ji sanje tempi jesu jukpa jesu juk siti zambata dona namba sanje chili tini di tewa samba gomba nyamle chen jukpa de la tini dije juk se de da te koire hiwa de.
And the fourth is that there are followers of these teachings. And so what this means is that because there are followers of these teachings, they are able to guide us through this hearing, listening, contemplating, meditation, this practice of the doctrine, because these followers are still here too, and they're available to us.
Tini tama de la di hienjening ne ziwa sita zo da dona di giwich hiening nga zo jesu sumba de la sigere de ngaranzo yang ji ko namba sanje che ji chigo samna ya da giwi hiening ji gi thangbo ani kirang tende gom gore ani tende se lam ji me deng na ngaranzo ji rangar so si moyong de zamba ani ngaranzo giwi hiening da jesu sungyo res.
And the last is to have others show one loving kindness from their heart. And what this means is that these followers are these spiritual friends, these lamas or teachers can teach us, they can guide us in the Buddha Dharma. And so that means they show us how to meditate, they show us the path that we must follow to practice. And without this, we would just be wandering by ourselves, not understanding or knowing where we should go.
That that ko tije tung tung jula sangma chop ke de zo pa he he zamba da jik. That chop ke de ani ngarang zo li dengi me ta ko de di chop ke de dengi na ani ngang zo tanjo chop ke den bi de milu rimbo che se da hin de he yoris.
And so that was a brief summary of all of these 18 freedoms and advantages. And so we just have we don't have that much time today. So I just went over all of this very concisely. And so those 8 states of freedom and those 10 advantages all together, they would be known as the 18 freedoms and advantages of a precious human body.
Ini da go da ngang zo juli khari che ko yoris na ta ngarang zo juli di chop ke de yeme de ye na Tini di ji da ngarang da ji tele tini ko tawa je dan jorwa chu sangma denge li den ji re du ti dila da ji tik de gare da tön chen bo ina me du ti pu kyang ring bo ro ju pa samlo tang ni ani ji chi go du sa me de ani ko nga do kom go gires.
So what needs to arise in our mind streams when we contemplate, when we think about all of these freedoms and advantages, we should really think and ask ourselves, do we have these 18 freedoms and advantages or not? And if we understand that we do, then we should understand that this makes our lives really meaningful. This makes these human forms that we have extremely precious and valuable. We should understand the value of this.
Tende da ji go chop ke den bi mili rimpo je tik top yore ani di tobe le kala ka po khanje yo me ta den da di thi je chu na ani ju ling hi go di ni ma nye ka yu pe dang chang de zo he yore an di do di za chen po ji top de yo de ani ngang zo ji se tele ji po yi te ko sa ye tu ye ke tende che tu tik de pa mi ze de se ro na Nanti te diksa mare samsam jinga zo sem na la ke go gres.
Why do we need to understand the value or how precious or meaningful it is to have a human body like this? If we possess all of these 18 freedoms and advantages, these 8 freedoms, these 10 advantages, then we can say that we have a precious human body. And later we will go over how difficult it is to obtain a precious human body. And we'll speak about this through the context of metaphors and also through enumeration or statistics. And we will understand just how rare and valuable it is to obtain a precious human body like this. If we spend all of our time just focusing on eating and drinking and kind of letting our lives waste like this, then this is not okay. This is not taking advantage of the rarity or the specialness of this kind of human support.
Ane jik ko nga zo lide tende sa mili rinpo che tende jik to wang de zamba dini nga rang zo wang bo go nga yu la dini suk ze wa dang dra nyen ba tri him ba re cha ya ra ta di zo li dini go jang jang kor ni di ze de zo ro de zamba di ze dini nga zo di su li kare pang sem so ta nga zo pu kyang rinpo ma yin ba ra pu kyang rinpo si de zamba pe na hya cha tu bi Tenda nga zo tse di wangpo go nga yu la gyuru ni dewa jikta yore di dewa pe chunjung di gyuru la wa jik re dere. Ani tele pa dewa chewa ani tenpa ta dona tse chima la soba ani tende chen pa tik nga zo kyang ring zi ji. Ani samlo tang goya jik te re deres.
So now we have obtained these precious human bodies. And if we just let all of our time be wasted by focusing on attachment to the different sensory pleasures, to pleasant sounds, to pleasant tastes, to beautiful sights, and so forth, if we spend all of our time just only focused upon that and let our time exhaust, let our time be wasted, honestly, we're going to be disappointed. We really have to expand our views. We have to see in a much more vast way. Yes, like the things that we just mentioned, they bring some kind of temporary enjoyment or pleasure, but there is a greater pleasure. There is a greater happiness or joy that is a lot more vast, that is a lot more stable. this is what we need to focus on. And so this is how we have to think and not just waste our times thinking about temporary pleasure. We have to take a larger perspective.
텐데레 답배차 향나 아니 따사자 국교 티졸리 되니 당마을 많이 나가서 베나 지니 대휴 데라지 제마가라 따디 공아모 힘보배어라 아모 힘보배어래 따베나 대 힘보요 말에 땡아모요 말에서 랍나 안나와 도이 말아 공아모레 힘보요래 레이라야 라이데 Juma ta dile nga mo ya pe na drangzi so ta chole so ta tarun dile ta nga wa himba yora ani di drangzi so ta nga mo hemba de so nyam su manyo de zamba ta ti ta pe chini se de ta pe misir ko himbo re ya samne nga zo dile nga zo cha de yora ti gap su khare na khoi tenda nga mo hemba de so ani nyam su nyo yo mara
And so we can use an example. Let's say that we go to a place where some kind of land where there's a lot of sugar, and then we taste the sugar, and the sugar is very sweet and delicious. And we can't say that sugar is not sweet or delicious, right? It is, right? We all know that it is. But if we stay in this place and we are just attached to the sweetness and the pleasure of the sugar alone, then we won't be able to experience things that are even sweeter. For example, honey is more sweet than sugar. Chocolate is more sweet than sugar. If we stay in this place and we're just attached to the sweetness of sugar, then we won't be able to experience things that are more and above and beyond the sugar. It's the same thing about samsara. If we are attached to these kinds of temporary pleasures, then we won't ever experience more than that.
Shugma ta drangzi la so wat to thwa nyong ti zamba ta di jikte chini chema kara de yakpo yo mare su pol ni re samna ti ti o ta ngone de yakpo sa mara de drangzi se de ya yin sa ra samne an nga zo samlo de yuwa jik te wong ge ti gap su kha sa ko drangzi nyam su nyong sa re te na hi nga rang zo tenda ji dang ni wang po go ngai yu la suk je wa ani khala himbo thwa ta zo li dewa la yo re se dewa ji yo re inaya tele lak bi tini dewa gom jam na pena tingin jing gom ni dewa dia na hin hian ben chang su sem la so wa ti dewa de thong dewa de le dan dewa chi wa tin de yo re.
But if we were to experience the taste of honey, then we would understand and we would know that, oh, honey is even sweeter than sugar. If this happens, then our minds change. Before we thought, oh, sugar was the sweetest thing. But then after knowing the taste of honey, then our minds change and we understand, wow, honey is like even sweeter than sugar. Like, I don't like sugar anymore. This is even sweeter. It's better. And so it's the same for us. If we're attached to sensory pleasures, to the taste of food, and all of these like temporary pleasures within samsara, then we will never experience that which is more than that. Like, and that means like the bliss of samadhi, like the pleasure or happiness or bliss of benefiting others. There are greater joys and happinesses than just temporary sensory pleasures.
Di ani ko sanje ji dang zo itanda wang po go ngai dewa de da dewa tha tu pa mai ba te tak pa me pa tem pa me pa tendre ji imba si ni tini dele dewa chewa ji ya yo wa si na ni ngarang zo le di lam ka de ting ya res.
Buddhists have taught that there are pleasures far beyond, like joy far beyond what we can experience with our senses. There is like the bliss or the happiness of greater states that are completely selfless, that are complete compassion. And so Buddhists have taught us and shown us this path.
Tende zombati tanda ngarang zo ji ko tanjo yimili rimpoche te top ti ani tende chen ko ma korwe tini ta tele tik je pa tha riwa I tini dewa tha tu pa ina tende ji tobya yo pa te la tini mi che ani ba ta ji tende dewa de la ta ne ka pro man do ningbo mindu sam ji ke ona ani de la ji che ni hia na nge jung se si ores.
And so, for us who have obtained this precious human body with all of its freedoms and advantages, the 18 freedoms and advantages, we really need to increase our perspective so that it becomes vast. We shouldn't just be focused on this, like so-called these temporary pleasures. We have to recognize that all of these temporary samsaric pleasures are something that are essenceless. They have no true inherent existence. And if we really understand this, then this becomes renunciation or turning away from samsara.
Andi tendaji korwai dewa dela da dewa jita yore de dela dini ngaranzo debe dewa de tatu pare da debe ji kachibore semni de cheni pa pe tampo cheni sung de di zamba ani di ngewo di zo samje ko mitak pirang hin di zamba ani nimaji gyurwa tepni andi ngewo de da ngaranzo ka thagire anti di ngaranzo tini ngeli semni tratik meza te semni betel gewi tende dunga tende yongge yores.
And if we are really attached to the happiness or these kinds of temporary like pleasures and samsara, and we really think to ourselves like, wow, these are like the ultimate pleasures. This is something that's extremely important. If our minds think that this is really something that's stable and we really like hold on to this tightly, we're really attached to this, then because of the nature of impermanence, one day these things are going to change and we're going to be separated from them. And if that happens and our minds are so fixated, then our minds are going to experience a lot of suffering because of this attachment.
Tende zamba tende ngazo ji ko tele tende ta ji li den kebar jing de top de jo de la ani di ze che di ji bi che tu mai ba ani di ze ba jang ring bo do ji ta ni tende ji ma je na ni be na tin ro di zo ina ya che di che tu korang zo kala se korang zo chu tung chen ni kang ko mi ze ro he yo ra se.
And so, therefore, we really have to make our perspectives more vast. We can't just think about this life and only this life. We have to think about future lives. Like animals, for example, they spend their whole lives just concerned on that existence, like wasting all of their time focusing on looking for food and so forth. And so we shouldn't do that.
Dende ta di to bi tini di tao jo job ke de ta ji di ya ni ngarang zo ji lamro ju ni top sha jo do ma ba de tini di kiwange ma ti zo le ani so so yi chok ti zo sa che ni ani tende top sha jo ji re ti top ye ta ji ni ki pe si di zamba ta yang de tan jo job ke de mili de top ye 아니 켈레 카포 페 티니 잠조 팅이 리와 티니 둥제와 타베지 둥디조 팅고 휴롱 사마레 텐데 둥데로 요와스.
For us to have achieved this precious human body with all of its 18 freedoms and advantages, this is something that's not easy to obtain. This has happened because of a vast accumulation of merit from our past lives. And so there's a metaphor about this, there's a story about this, illustrating just how difficult it is to obtain this precious human body with all of its 18 freedoms and advantages. And the story involves an ocean as vast as like all of the trichiliocosm, and then there's like a tortoise. And so maybe you guys have heard this story.
Di do that the anzo mi li den de tobia la yang di ni di jewange mali so so mi ke wa chu ti zo pang ani ke wa chu ti zo tup chen ten de chen mi li den de tobre ma to he yang ji ko di ga de yu den de ma to wi di ga de lam ro jun top de jo do ha mares.
To have achieved a precious human body with this 18 freedoms and advantages, there is no other cause for this than abandoning the 10 non-virtues and really practicing the 10 virtues.
Deni da ji ju sigere ju da mi ge wa ju pang ge wa ju tu ni tobre pe si ti zamba da jam zo de re ti chang sigere da chang li sam lo tang na ji da nga rang zo ten da ji nu chen da di zamba o mi pe mang bo du a de tengi da yo re de ina ya da ji pe na ji da mi kare thungju dinju ni ji yo re le do da ten da tinro ro ji la sam lo tang na pe cho ji gi na la ya ani ten da zam bu ling mi sang ma ji ye ra se ma nyu.
So that is the cause of obtaining a precious human body, like really abandoning the 10 non-virtues, practicing the 10 virtues, And so to understand this through the context of metaphor, this would be the story of the great ocean and then the tortoise, and then how difficult it would be, for the tortoise to poke its head out, so forth, and put its head through the wooden yoke. You guys have all heard this story. And to understand just how difficult it is to obtain a precious human body through the lens of statistics or numeration, how we do this is we really have to think. Like, we might think, yeah, there are a lot of people in this world. There are so many, there are all these people, like humans on this planet. There's a vast number. But if we compare this to the number of animals, then we understand like there's even more animals. It's like there's an even vaster amount of animals compared to humans.
Di nani da chi che shige te da chi mi tunjur dinju nani din nangba ipe na che shige tunjur su mendo yo mare siri do ta tende ro ji re de ra.
Huh?
Zambuling na la mi tunjur dinju ya re do di nani da nangba kon san che shige tunjur su mendo yo mare siri do. Sum.
Oh, sum.
Oh,
Di kapsu? Di kapsu di sum?
Mare shidan di zambuling li mi tunjur dinju ze ya ra.
Yeah, 7 billion, right?
Uh-huh. Di nani nangpa dini di sum ze ji man tunjur sum mendo yo mare siri do.
Oh, that's hakasо. And so we have to think, like there are 7 billion people on this planet. And then within this population of this planet, there aren't even 3 billion Buddhists, right?
근데 zambatini 다지 고 지단이 장군 제나 미당 tinro 제나 미대 장윤윤데레 미나니 단디니 최지게 데베 데베장 베티고 장윤윤 차데라스.
So when we think about statistics or numbers, if we compare the amount of people to the amount of animals, we understand like relatively just how few humans there are compared to all of the different animals and insects and so forth, the vast number of animals there are in this world. And then if we compare the number of humans to the number of Buddhists there are, we see just how few Buddhists there are, like compared to all of the different people in this world. We see just how rare it is to be a Buddhist.
Di tenda jeja di nang la di ni di ko tanjo nye ga da tsimi ta ni ga xia re da di zamba da ngan zo da de chen so so gom ni samlo ta hong kap su ta ngarang le ji tawa je dan jo ra ju chang ma dengi du da nga ji sam ni da di dengi du sam ni yang ngan zo le le chen de na di gi ma re se ka re sa di ju li go yang jo di tawa je dan jo wa ju de na ya ngan zo mi tak pi se ji yang jo yong gi ra se.
And so today the subject of this talk are the 18 freedoms and advantages, the 8 freedoms, the 10 advantages, and also impermanence. And so while we're thinking about this, while we're thinking about these 18 freedoms and advantages and impermanence, it's not enough just to think, oh, okay, I have these 18 freedoms and advantages. Okay, that's enough. And then to just kind of relax and be like, oh, okay, I have this. Like, no, we have to understand, yes, we have these 18 freedoms and advantages, but there's also impermanence. So it's not enough just to be like, oh, I have this. We have to do something with it.
Tere, tini ta chidani ti yin ta nga zo midak pi ti kor te zo hyung te zo hye ong kap su tini shi ne ti zo li sam ni midak pa gome ani nang chu yi sem je li sam ni midak pa gome yang nang chu sem je ti zo lang tini pe thambi kiu li sam pa yang di ki gi dak po li sam pa zo ta tinte subject tini pe mambo hya yo res.
And so generally when this subject of impermanence is presented in the different texts, usually it's presented through topics such as the impermanence of the outer container of the physical world, the physical universe, its inner contents, sentient beings. And then within this category of inner contents, sentient beings, we also talk about the impermanence of sacred or holy beings. We talk about the impermanence of powerful gods and so forth.
Ta dizo re hie ti ji da men ta ji da mi da pu si ti zam ba da ngarang zo hie yin ba de ko ja re de na ngarang zo sem na la khare theng gi na Tadunga tiksi hi mare samni pa tiksi degire samni nga tikto girimbo ro degire samni de rewa ro yor mando hie jaja jare de ina khati hi de ha mago zan tadunga tiksi da girimbo ro degire sam takpa tila go ko ge yorese.
To go over each of these different topics one by one, this isn't something that we have time for today. And so when we talk about impermanence, this is something that's really like, of course, like 100%, we all know what impermanence is, right? But what are we really thinking in our minds? Are we thinking, oh yeah, like, life is impermanent, I'm going to die, but I'll stay for a little bit, or, maybe we might even be thinking, oh, I'm going to stay, I plan to stay for a long time. And so we know for sure, it's 100% like sure that we know about impermanence or about the concept of impermanence, but how much of it do we really understand? Do we really understand,
The Zhongshan Tianzi Jixun Dua Dini Karesina that and the Nupjo to Zoli Taluxoli Kegar to the Lepti Zamba Dini Pet cake is Oceani Kozo Pet Temde Hewojik Chigi or is the Tengeto so logic pa Hiwali Niru ores here the Lata Niru Losawa de Kega de Tangira. Na temde roje pe mi sama gaga chigi ore de tenli so here logic ta ni ro se sundu ase.
And so Tsar Khensa Rinpoche actually gave a teaching about this. He said Westerners, they really make such a big deal about their birthdays. They like get a cake and they celebrate, they have all these preparations, they make all these, wishes and aspirations. Actually, they're really celebrating. It's a really joyous occasion. But what's really happening is it's just another year closer to your death. And so maybe we might be like having these joyous festivities and we might be thinking, hey, it's my birthday. Like actually what's really going on is we're just another year closer to dying.
This that beginning around the be ko pe cha ya nang zo chong gang de zo nang ni cha lak de zo nyo di zang ba an cha lak de tu ze kan ze me ta ji do ti ze ka ze yo wi de me ta re da ngarang zo li de na xing ti ze ji yo ra di ngarang zo dong za ni ha ko yo ma ra sa.
And so another example we can use for this is when we go shopping in the grocery store, we go and we look at the expiration date and we're like, oh, okay, this expires here, this expires this time. But do we really think about our own expiration dates? Because we have expiration dates too. I think that actually we never think about our own expiration dates.
Hey, the somebody that she ko ta ting sang tu ze de zo le ti ni ji da ni ma ta pa da hin ni ta ti zo san ju so ra ti zo le ta na ti ni ji zang bu ling na la ji da sa chu me lung ti zo yi gen che ni mi mang bo ten de hi do da ma kya ni hi do ta ten de che ni ko ni ma le ta ji ko de do hi do da di nga to ta mo ta de zam ji ma yin ba ti zo thong de za ba an di so lang de cho wa ji leng go re se da mi da bu gom si di zam ba ni ma ji da so di ya da ko ten de do ji hi re sam na nga rang zo di to la ten de gom go ya re.
And so these days, when we look at the news and when we see what's going on with the world, we can see all of these different natural disasters involving water, involving fire, involving earth, for example, like landslides and so forth, and earthquakes. And we can see how these circumstances cause so many different, like huge numbers of people to lose their lives. And we can see how people lose their lives in warfare and strife. And day by day, this is happening. So many people are passing away. So many people are dying. And when we see this in the news, honestly, we're sort of just watching it like it's a movie or it's like a film. We're not really connected to it. We're kind of disconnected. We're just kind of like watching it happen. But what we have to do is we really have to take this feeling and apply it to ourselves and understand that this could happen to us. We have to really understand impermanence this way by applying it to our own selves. And so this is how we have to meditate and contemplate on impermanence.
Da hi ro di zam ba tin ta jing arang zo chang me ha ko sa ta to re ko ji ju chen bo ye na yang da ti ni wang ja chen bo ye na yang da ane ji ko zam bu ling chang ma wang jur ke ji na yang da shi ro di zam ba ane so yi ji su bo de yang da ker wang me de ane ko ji pa ro ra.
And so when we're dying, it doesn't matter how rich we are, it doesn't matter how much wealth we have, it doesn't matter how much power we have. We could have all the power in the entire world. But when we die, when we pass away, we can't bring any of this with us. We can't even bring our own bodies. We have to go alone without any of this.
Tere ko ta chi chukpo be zambuling li wang yurke chi inang tra aniya di trangpo ta chi kangba mege tende pangko kyo chi inang tra ta hiro di zamba tini chikba re de su chi la kuya mera.
And so it doesn't matter who we are. We could be extremely rich, wealthy individual. We could be an extremely powerful individual, like a world leader of all, so much worldly power. Or we could be a beggar, like a homeless person on the street. When we die, we go exactly in the same way.
Ta de zamba de ngarang zo ta chi do di che do ya de ta chi che di la so so i kiwa sa hya kyo tini chi ta so so gom yap ni nyam nyon che dan den ba ya na ko hi do di zamba ya ko la chi ngam rak dan ji nang chi kang chi go me de pa ta sa ja pe na zo sa ja chi ni sa ja chi la do ya li ngam ra yo ma ra an de na hi ngi mi nyam le da po ti zo ko hi do di zamba pe le le shen ni tin do do dos.
The only thing we can really take with us is any virtue that we've accumulated, we've amassed in this life, any good deeds, any positive karma. And then if we've really practiced dharma in an authentic way, then any of this, we take with us this experience. When people go into a new land, if they go to someplace they haven't been before, they're really scared, right? They don't know where it is they're going. But somebody who is a practitioner, someone who has true, authentic practice experience, they can go in a relaxed, confident way because they have this experience.
Dachi ko ngaranzo chi pena mitak bire samni ani so le dachi simra ro ngamra ro chen de ni pendo yo mare ina ya mitak bi imba de gom ni dini ta di ani di ko che dubiele dini ngazo pena lelo cheni da pena ngazo lelo di da o da ti gong yong sa mare I sha nya le de o da sa ni da gong ti gong ya da ro nga su po te ka nga khai du sam ten de chen ba ngazo la sa do re te mi la e che to ani mi da bi se de ko nam yong cha ma ji ba ten da ye ten da mo ha kwe me za an ten de go mo de zam ba ani ngazo che du bi le pe tik de pa za dak ro cheni de du bi le pen do yo re se mi da bi gom na.
And so for us to really meditate upon and think about impermanence, the purpose of this isn't just so that we can be like really afraid and that we can really increase our fear and our fright. Because if we just do that, that's not actually helpful for us. What we have to do is we have to meditate upon impermanence so that we can practice the Dharma. It's for this purpose. This understanding of impermanence impels us to practice the Dharma, to truly practice, so that we can kind of go in a confident, relaxed way. And so when we talk about this kind of confidence or being relaxed, it's not being like so relaxed that you become lazy and you think, oh, I don't need to do anything. I don't need to practice. No. What this does mean is that we really have to think about impermanence and understand impermanence so that we know that our time is limited, so that we can really practice the Dharma and accomplish it.
Tā tē zambā tē tamā tēlā tā tōk tō kārē sī nā jī ngā rāng zō tā tsē tē tēlē anī tāñchō chō kē tēmbī mīlī rīmbō jī tō bōng tē zambā tā tīng sāng kē mā sāng rīng tāng tā wā sī tē zambā anī sō sō bē tēndē jī tōp tūk sāng bī jī tēnī chō jī nī tī rō tōp nā yā anī tī yā ko tāk pā tēmbā mē bā mī tāk bī rāng hīng rē tū wā ko chē tēnī ko 뉴다 뉴도 두고 살와 삼네 아니 간도 줄리 텐데 지게 오게라서 곰잡니 미닥빠서 곰니.
So therefore, how is it that we should think? So we should understand, like, wow, I've really been able to attain all of these 18 freedoms and advantages, these 8 freedoms, these 10 advantages. And this is something that's extremely valuable, this precious human body. And then having obtained this from another side, we should also understand that everything has the nature of impermanence. Everything is going to change. Because of this, we really need to use this to practice the Dharma. This is what should arise in our mind streams. the meaning of these 18 freedoms and advantages, the value of this, and also the nature of impermanence. And so using these combined, we should really encourage ourselves to practice